Happy Hour again from Uptown New Orleans. Hello, I'm Grant Morris. Happy Hour is part of the family of shows on the podcast network. It's neworleans.com. When you walk into a bar in New Orleans and you pull up a bar stool, you never know who's going to be sitting on either side of you. What you do know, however, is no matter what they look like, what they're wearing, whether they just got out of a limousine or just got out of jail, they're going to be happy to talk to you because that's New Orleans and this is Happy Hour. It's a cocktail-fueled 60 minutes of random conversation with folks who have nothing in common other than we're all New Orleanians and we're all in a bar and we're all fucking freezing cold. Because it's a horrible day here in New Orleans, isn't it? Molly Richard is here. Isn't it the worst day ever?
It's the worst day
It's
ever.
the worst day of 2017, whatever season this is supposed to be.
Yeah.
For sure.
Fall, winter.
Yeah, fall, winter. And Helen Gillet is here, back again. Hi, Helen. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I had to look up on the website. It's been like a year or so since you were here.
Sounds about right.
Doesn't it just seem like yesterday?
It was just
You
yesterday.
haven't changed a bit.
Well, yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I look exactly the same as well,
You do.
right? Except
you really
younger.
do. Yeah.
I like it when it gets to this time
Slightly
of year
younger,
because
yeah.
it's slightly younger.
Slightly younger.
Slightly, because it's darker now at this time of year.
Yeah.
So it really helps. And Derwin Bunton is here as well. Hi, Derwin.
Hello.
How are you doing? We've heard a lot about you.
I hope it's good.
This is the kind of show, if you're listening to this show somewhere around the world or around the country or around New Orleans, this is the kind of show that makes you feel inferior about yourself. Like there's someone calling me in. Shut that up. Because when you hear what these people do, it's kind of depressing how interesting and
Wait, is it depressing
giving.
for us? Or
It's depressing for me
everybody?
and the average listener to listen to this because you think, how come my life is just so wasted just taking care of myself? So I tell you what, Derwin Bunton is the Chief District... Uh-oh, what's happened?
Nothing.
What is it?
We're good.
Something bad? Okay. Derwin Bunton is the Chief District Defender for the Orleans Parish Public Defender's Office.
Wow.
It's all true.
How about that? He's the guy who's in charge of who do you defend? Anyone who's done anything?
I defend poor people who are charged with crimes here in New Orleans.
So if I'm poor, what is the definition of poor in New Orleans?
Well, it's really a legal definition. It usually depends on what you're being accused of, but basically
Really?
if you can't
the
afford
sliding
a lawyer,
scale of poverty depending on what you've done?
yeah, some cases cost
What?
more than others. Yeah, it's all true.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
let's go through the sliding scale of what start off with like what's the lowest rung?
Well, there's a baseline standard. So if you are at the poverty line or about twice the poverty line, you would be eligible for a lawyer from my office.
What is the poverty line? Because Helen probably is she's a professional cello player. So I bet you're under the
15
poverty
years
line.
and counting.
15
Still
years of-
rolling.
I
Still
bet-
supporting myself
I bet you're under the
with
poverty
that
line,
cello.
though.
That's why I put it all the way
On
over
the table,
there.
yeah, so no one's going to knock it
That's
over.
right.
Good thinking. What is the poverty line? Do we qualify for it?
Well, it's set by the federal government is what we follow. So probably
Well, what is so difficult
Probably
about
y'all won't be eligible for my services, but
What is a
you
why
never
can't
know.
you tell us a number? What is the number?
well, because it's not a number.
It's not a number.
The legal standard is if you cannot afford a lawyer without substantial hardship to yourself or your dependents, then you are entitled to a public defender.
Okay. So Molly, how would Molly qualify? How would we find out?
I don't know, Molly.
Well, I'll tell you.
Might.
I'll tell you something about Molly. Molly is the marketing manager at a place called Civic Source, and she's also known as the budget bitch
I am also known as that.
because she's a world famous budgeter. Have you ever heard of that sort of thing, Helen?
But it actually
But-
started.
Unfortunately
Nah,
not.
me neither. I didn't know there was such a thing as a budget bitch until this afternoon.
Well, good thing this afternoon's happening.
I know. So this is we're going to find out how we can A, budget ourselves and B, qualify for free legal
We got like
advice.
budget bitch,
Perfect.
law bitch, and cello bitch.
Just a bunch of bitches.
Just a bunch of bitches here on a bitchy day in New Orleans.
I'm gonna write that down. That has to be the title of the show, Thomas. Right there.
It actually, part of it started whenever I was also working with people who were under the poverty line and helping them like figure out how they could afford rent for possibly the first time. I used to work with people who were homeless and help them get housed and figure out like, okay, I don't care what you're spending money on. I don't care where your money comes from. Like it can be from sex or drugs or whatever your money comes from and wherever your money goes to, can you put $600 aside a month to afford rent? And
That's a lot of sex or drugs. $600, save $600 a month for rent.
For rent. So that you don't have to be homeless anymore. And then whatever your other issues are, whether it's drugs or whatever, you can figure that out once you're in a stable environment. But that's all, kind of how Budget Bitch was born, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
So Budget Bitch is actually a business.
It's more like a project.
And how would someone find you if they needed
They could email me at
bitchiness?
budgetbnola@gmail.com.
Budgetbnola@gmail.com.
They don't let you put the word bitch in a Gmail email
Is that
address.
right?
It's true.
That's good
Budget.
to know.
Yeah.
That is good to know.
Good information.
Note to self.
Budgetbnola@gmail.com. I wrote that down. Yeah. Don't put bitch in my email. What happens when you try to put the word
Already
bitch
learning
in
so
your
It just tells you no.
Just gets knocked back.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
It's like not okay.
So you were working with homeless people. Like, see what I mean now about how
I feel horrible
inferior
about
you
myself
feel about
right now
yourself?
with these two here.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm playing music for a living.
I'm glad that you're on my side. The axes across the table like this. You feel just like,
Oh, man.
why do I have this pathetic life making podcasts and playing the cello when I could
Yeah.
be actually saving the world?
Yep.
Like the budget bitch and the law bitch. Okay, so let's go back to the budget bitch for a minute.
Okay.
How did you actually get to hang out with the homeless people?
Well, I was living in Lafayette. I was working at Catholic Services of Acadiana.
Okay.
And that was my job. I was helping people who were street level homeless, literally sleeping on the street. And
But Lafayette is not well known for its homeless population, is it?
we have not compared to New Orleans for sure, but there were over 500 people who were sleeping outside in
There's
Lafayette.
500 homeless people in Lafayette. That is hard to imagine, actually. I can't believe that. Really?
Yeah.
What was their circumstances, most of them?
I mean, there were so many different, like for instance, one person who I was helping him find housing and budget to pay rent, he was living check by check, working a manual labor job, was riding his bike to work, got hit by a car, broke his arm, lost his job, couldn't pay his medical bills, and found himself sleeping outside. I mean, the
Wow, okay.
circumstances, whatever, range tremendously. But
Didn't he get to sue the person who knocked him off his bike?
I don't know if he had the legal help.
Oh, there
Couldn't
we
he,
go.
Derwin? Couldn't he have got some legal help to sue the dude who knocked him over?
Well, maybe, but it's not that easy. Like I can totally understand. A lot of what we do in our office is try to stabilize our clients, and we have a lot of homeless clients. Folks suffer from substance abuse, mental illness, and it's not what you think in how people find themselves in my office or in circumstances where they're going to need some budget help as well. So yeah, for something like that, finding a lawyer would mean if you don't have money, somebody's going to have to take it hoping that there's going to be a payday on the other side. And if there's no payday on the other side, you're not going to get a lawyer to take that case.
Right. Well, that's the great justice system that we have here. That's why it's so awesome. What's the same with healthcare? You can't get healthcare if you can't afford it either. You're supposed to be able to get it
That's true.
through some emergency room idea, and you're the emergency room of law, I guess, right?
It's true.
So people come to you when. How does someone find you actually?
Well, we find them for the most part. Once the way it works, if you get arrested and you can't afford a lawyer, you're going to go to court, what we call first appearances, and then they're going to ask you a few questions about whether or not you can afford a lawyer. If the answer is no, and it looks very much like the answer really is no, then they're going to appoint my office, and from that point on, we get to work on your case.
Okay. And how many guys are in your office?
We have about 60 lawyers at this point, and we handle anywhere between 20 and 22,000 cases a year.
Oh my God.
That's amazing.
Can you do the math on that one, Helen?
Let's-
20,000 divided by 60.
Why are you asking me? We got the budget
Yeah,
bitch
budget
right here.
bitch.
No,
What
I
is
need a,
60,000 divided?
Very well programmed
No.
Excel spreadsheet to help me with that.
What's 20,000 divided by 60 lawyers? You probably know that already, don't you?
Well, it varies in terms of our workload.
Well, 6
varies.
times 3 is 21. I know that.
20,000 divided by 60.
That's why I start with things like this.
How do you start it?
I say 6 times 3 is 21, which is close to 20.
I don't think
And
it
that
is.
should
though.
get us.
It's about
6 times 3 is not
Oh,
21.
it's not.
No, it's
well, then
18.
I'm fucked.
7 times 3 is
I'm
21.
about to play
no?
Indian music, and I can't even do simple math.
It's about 360 cases a year.
Thank
so
you,
it'd be
Thomas.
it'd be like a case a day. that these guys are
7
working
times
through.
3 is 21.
7
isn't
3
it?
is 21
That's
for
the
sure.
Other one.
Yeah.
Where's the one
It's
after
the other-
6? Got it.
Yeah, it's close though. It's approximate.
Right.
It's close
This is
enough,
why I'm not
it's close enough for
drinking
Indian music. That's why you're drinking ginger beer.
That's right.
Yeah.
So how many cases? It's a case a day.
Yeah, that's on average. It's going to be, that's just a raw average. But the cases vary by
No weekend work.
severity and how serious they are. So the lower end cases, it's actually more stark than that. Our lawyers will handle the sort of city offenses, municipal cases, up near 1,000 cases per lawyer for lawyers working on those cases. And then it gets smaller as you get to felonies and serious felonies.
Wow. See, the thing is, people like you and I, Helen, we do what we do here because that's all we can do, basically. I mean, that's basically it. You can play the cello, and I can sit here and bullshit for an hour, and that's why you end up doing these things. But you guys have choices. You're a lawyer. You could be working for Jones Walker or Stone Pigman or any of these other big deal firms, and you didn't have to work with homeless people and care about people's budgets. You could be doing, I don't know what else the hell you could be doing, but
To be fair,
anything.
I don't typically help homeless people budget anymore.
You've moved on from the homeless. Screw them, right?
I kind of.
They're on their own.
They're not on their. I'm
How
still
many-
totally available for them.
Are you?
I am.
Well, how would a homeless person find you, for goodness sake?
I'm not going to say my address right now.
No, I would advise against that. But your lawyer would probably advise you not to say your address.
Exactly.
Don't do that.
But homeless people haven't got the resources to go out and find budget, but even if they want to, you found them through Catholic Services in
It's true.
Lafayette. But here, what made you move here? Just get away from the homeless?
No.
Because they all know you, I would imagine. There's only 500 people. Do they all know you in Lafayette?
Actually, yeah. It's interesting. Like, if you go out downtown, I am waving to people would not expect me to wave to. But yeah, here in New Orleans, totally different scene.
Did you fall in love with any homeless guys?
No. That was an interesting question.
I wonder if
Not
there's
yet. I don't know. I'm still young. We'll see what happens.
That's true, but you're not meeting any homeless guys. Now, I thought when you met them...
That's true.
What are people like? Are they just regular people?
Oh, yeah.
If
They're
you're
just
meeting
regular people.
It's got to be someone in 500 people that you'd be attracted to.
Potentially, but it's kind of like doctor-patient situation.
Oh, there's a
whenever you're
relationship.
working with,
All right.
helping them find
It's
housing.
a professional relationship.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Sorry, no juicy details about my love life from that question.
From that question, anyway. Well, there's probably some juicy details later, but we're only on our second drink. What are you drinking?
Right now, Moscow Mule,
Yeah.
And what was your first drink?
Beet Heat.
Beet Heat. What was in that, actually?
There was it was like vodka and beets or beet juice
Yeah.
and jalapenos.
Shit.
It was like
It tastes
beet
good?
heat.
That
It was
sounds
good.
really good.
It was great.
Does it?
Everyone
a
get
whole day
one.
like today.
I can see why you didn't get a second one, though.
I just
Beet
there's a
juice.
lot on the menu.
It's
Gotta-
like Russian food.
well, that's okay.
These days, it's pretty Russian as in. Are you from Lafayette originally?
Yes.
You are? Okay. What made you come down here for real?
I moved here for a job that I didn't stay up for very long.
Oh, really? What was it?
I was doing sustainability consulting. It was great.
Isn't that
It's a great
funny that
company.
sustainability didn't last all that long?
Yeah, that's a good way
ironic.
to put it.
What does that mean, even sustainability consulting?
Just like companies who need some help figuring out how to save money and also save the planet at the same
Yeah.
time. How
This
could those
is-
things work together instead of
Is
work
that them?
against each other?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What sort of company is this?
It's like a consulting company. It was great. I'm not there anymore, though.
Right. What was so great about it?
It's a good idea. It's
Oh,
a
yeah?
great concept.
There's a lot of good ideas, though, right?
Lots of good ideas.
Can you figure this out, Helen? You want that quieter?
Yeah, I do actually.
Which one? Isn't it this one?
Yeah, I don't think that's helping.
It didn't help? So
I
who's
think
to-
you turned mine
I turned
down.
you down. Do you want to
This
go
one
back
might
up
be
to
one.
him?
I'm fine.
It's super.
We've
Oh,
got-
maybe that. Did you figure it out? This is the most complicated thing we've got going on here.
You guys keep on talking.
Okay, Thomas.
I could just whisper from now on.
You could. All right. Okay. So anyway, Helen, let's get on to you for a minute.
Second one there.
Because
There we go.
once we get you sounding right,
That's good.
You got it?
I got to protect my ears too.
I know.
Ears and the cello. I
how are
need
you?
both.
Can you hear me okay now,
I'm
dear?
fine.
You good? And you're good? Okay, so Helen, last time the other times we talked to you, you had a whole rig set up here.
Yeah,
You
I
came
have
with all
my
these
loop
pedals and
pedal.
everything. Are you still doing that?
I am. I do that all the time. I'm going to do it later tonight, actually. And I thought one time moving all that stuff in one day is probably
really.
good for me right now.
I agree. Where are you tonight?
I'm at the Ace Hotel.
Oh, cool. That's a cool new
3
venue
Keys
for
room.
everybody.
Yeah, it is. They're trying to really support the artists' creativity in that space, and it's not a regular hotel lobby gig where you're just
Right.
really playing up, you're
Have
the
you done
equivalent
that?
of wallpaper.
Yeah, you haven't done hotel lobby, surely, have you?
I've done a couple. Yeah, well, you get
imagine.
like people are like, I got a great idea. Really want to, have Helen Gillet come play this thing, and they contact me and they're like, it's going to be a really great thing, and it's in this hotel, and I sort of assume. I've learned not to assume that people know to put a
Right.
musician on a stage, and I mean, I think a lot of people music can be background music, and people feel comfortable with that. Like you go to a restaurant and hear a band and people are talking, and they just expect the ambiance and the atmosphere. But I've wanted to write a song about wallpaper because I've felt like wallpaper several
Right.
times in a lot actually. And any musician out there that's played while people are talking and chatting, like sometimes you can roll with it if it's a club where you're kind of expecting that, but there's sometimes where you're expecting a listening audience, and you end up sort of stuck in a corner, And
Well, your kind of music is kind of not the kind of music that you go on a date and want to get to talk to somebody while you're playing. It demands that you listen to it, really.
Well, I mean, like if you're going on a date and I can entertain you with some French songs and it could be a little romantic, but then at a certain point, I might play something that's just going to make you start crying. So you might want to bring a special date, like somebody that you're already kind of familiar with,
Right.
maybe, and feel comfortable crying
It's
in
not
front
first
of.
date music.
Maybe not. Maybe
'Cause-
not. I mean,
I have
unless it breaks the ice, it can break the ice. You just end up, like
I'm going to
sharing
break the ice
Kleenex.
between us right now.
Oh, okay.
I know that you think we've never met, but I've seen you perform before at Bacchanal, and it was like, I did cry.
Oh, there you go.
And I
Were you
was
on
with,
a date?
Actually,
We're back
I
to your
mean,
love life now.
like, yeah, way to
Tie
get-
it all in.
Yeah, wrap it.
Wasn't a homeless
Thanks,
person.
Helen.
No.
Good
So
job.
I had met two people who were visiting New Orleans from Canada, and they were like, "Oh, where should we go? What should we do?" And I was like, "Let's go to Bacchanal." And we went to Bacchanal, and we were like in the back, and there were like all these people talking, and you started playing, and we were like, "No, we have to be like next to her." So we went and sat at this table with these strangers, and we were like, "Can we scoot in some? We just have to be close." And then we like sat there for like an hour and a half, and just like looked at each other, like eyes like welling up, and we were like, "This is beautiful. This is beautiful." So yeah,
Thank you.
You're incredible at what you do.
What was it that made you cry, exactly?
it was just like, it was kind of everything. It was like, okay, I'm kind of with these strangers from Canada who I've just totally hit it off with. We found ourselves like at Bacchanal, which is just a great environment. It was like kind of chilly outside, and then we like elbowed our way in to sit with like another stranger who was like, yes, come in, like sit with us, be close. And then like just your performance is incredible. You're like, you can tell that like you are doing your thing and you're not thinking about anything else than like what you're inspired to do right then.
That's true. Well, like I said, I it's what I know how to do, so I better stick to it, and better be involved in it. But strangers from Canada have made me cry before too, so it could have been a little bit of that.
It's true, it's true.
Yeah,
What part of Canada were they from? Were they French Canadians?
No,
where were
Winnipeg,
yours from?
apparently.
Was
I know
it
two from
Celine Dion?
Winnipeg.
Actually, Winnipeg. It's interesting that you
Winnipeg.
mentioned Winnipeg, that they were from Winnipeg. And speaking of sadness and music, there's a movie by a Winnipeg filmmaker called "The Saddest Music in the World" by Guy Madden. It's one of my
Wow.
favorite movies. And
Okay.
there's a super, super sad cellist from like Croatia, I think, or somewhere in the Eastern European area. And he comes in, and it's a competition between all these different countries of the world to play the saddest music in the world. And so there's like Mexico versus Croatia, and then they like battle off, and then like the person that wins gets to go down a slide into a big vat of beer. Anyway,
This is a movie?
It's a movie. It's great.
Okay.
A great big shout out for that movie. I love it. Plus the filmmakers, I'm in the experimental music, and he's definitely pretty experimental with film. He puts Vaseline on the camera lens and then takes a Kleenex and like does a spiral to clean it off, and it creates this refracted light image. And
wow,
it's pretty interesting.
This is a Canadian movie.
Yeah, a Canadian man made a lot of people think about sadness and music.
The saddest music in the world. And what's his name? The guy, somebody Madden?
Guy.
Guy?
His first name is actually Guy, so the guy's name is Guy.
Guy.
Which is clever. It's kind of like calling yourself bitch.
But
isn't that
pronounced
dude.
Guy in French?
Oh, Monsieur Guy. Yeah, but Winnipeg's...
That's not French, I'm Winnipeg. Oh, good point.
No, we're close to...
I was thinking it was like whatever
as if
that
I'm
is.
from there now. I'm projecting math.
Guy.
I'm in my own reality.
6 times 3 is Guy Madden.
6 times 3 is Guy Madden. That's the name of my new album.
All right. Good idea.
Thanks,
write that
man.
down. I'll write that
Thanks.
down for you. Okay.
Thank you.
6 times 3 equals Guy Madden.
Equals Guy Madden.
And how long is this movie? Is it like a full-length feature film?
It's a full-length feature film, yeah. It's
so
really
sit
great.
through an hour and a half or something of sad music. Is it?
No. I mean, it's
but
a
the
funny.
movie
It's
is
kind
funny.
of it's a dark comedy.
It's a wacky comedy,
it's,
right?
It's
Okay.
fun. It's like film noir. It's in black and white. It's very trippy, but it's
Sounds
funny.
good.
I mean, when it's surrealistic, which I also like. I'm actually from Belgium originally, and
So you've lost your accent completely.
well, my mom was from Chicago,
Right.
and so I sound more like her, I think, than my Belgian
You
root.
grew up all around the world, though. You've lived in all kinds of different places.
Yeah, I grew up in Singapore.
Right.
In Southeast Asia for 9 years as a girl, and from 2 until 11.
You think some of that would hold on, but I guess...
Well,
does it come out if you've had a few drinks or something?
yeah, sometimes, occasionally people think I'm Canadian. Occasionally when I'm singing in French or speaking in French, I sound like I'm from Canada as well, actually. And now I'm dating a Canadian. I think Canada's been in my
really
future.
in right now.
Well, yeah.
How did you meet this Canadian dude? Is he legal here? Is
He's legal here. Yeah.
Thank goodness for that, because I hate to have to see him sent back.
Yeah. No. Don't worry about that.
I would advise against answering that question.
We have legal presence here,
All right,
so
just don't
I
say.
don't want to.
Legal bitch says don't mention it. Talking German, would you like another beer?
I think I'm fine right now.
You're good to go? We can keep you hooked up. We're in a bar. So if you'd like another one, don't hesitate to sing up.
I'm all right now.
Okay. So how did you meet this Canadian guy? Homeless?
Yeah. Yep.
Give him some budget advice, and then next thing you know, you're dating him. See, I tell you, there's a lot of
Wait,
people
that was
looking...
my life.
Yeah, but, I think like pretty much every woman could just attest to giving a guy some budget advice and then them falling in love with that.
That is
so
a
that's how
very
it
attractive
starts.
quality.
Like meet some homeless guy, give him budget advice,
Next
and
thing
get
you know,
married, you
boom,
got kids.
it's all
that's
over. Derwin, how did you meet your wife?
I met my wife playing soccer.
There you go.
There was a pickup soccer game we'd play regularly, and
Pick up
soccer.
it's true.
There you go. And you
pickup.
who picked up whom?
Well, when I first met her, she had a boyfriend, and I thought, oh, she's cute, but she's got a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then we kept playing the regular game, and I always thought she was cute, but the timing was never right. She either had a boyfriend or I had a girlfriend. And then there was this moment where I broke up with my then girlfriend, and I thought, I'm going to ask her out. I've been wanting to ask her out. I hope she's not dating anyone. And
Are you still playing soccer together at this time?
No, I am way too old.
No, I don't mean now. I mean at the
soccer.
time when you were about to ask her out.
Oh yeah, it was after a game.
Okay.
It was after a game, and I asked her if she wanted to go out sometime, and she thankfully said yes. And our first date was a 5-year-old's birthday party at the JCC swimming pool.
Oh, that is so romantic. Yes.
What positions were you playing in the soccer match?
Well, I am not a natural soccer player. I actually grew up playing football, American football.
Yeah.
And but I had a lot of friends who played soccer. I thought it would be fun to learn, and so I played all over the place when we first started playing. But I was always a little rough. I couldn't get the contact right. Because you watch it on
football.
Yeah, because you watch it on
and ball
TV.
contact.
Soccer players seem to jostle a good bit. The thing is, I'm not built like a soccer player.
Yeah.
I'm built like a football player.
He really is, for those of you who can't see him.
So when I pushed these little people, they fell down all the time, and I'd get
you get a foul.
I'd get a foul, and folks would get upset. I'm like, well, you pushed me first.
Yeah, it's kind of like pushing a trumpet player, like pushing a soccer player. You don't want to mess with them. Or a small dog. Like my neighbor's dog was out the other day. It's a small yappy dog, and my teenage neighbor, my other neighbor, was like, "Oh, Miss Allen, can you help me? You know, this dog. Like, do you know whose dog this is?" We're trying to figure it out. I'm like, "Well, it's small. Let's just pick it up and we'll keep it. And we'll call." Got close to that dog. No way.
Yeah.
That dog was gonna rip my head off. Like jump out, like in the Monty Python with Flying Rabbit scene. You know.
No, it was. But I figured it out.
Yeah.
You know, learned how to play soccer.
You learned how to be gentle.
Yes, we ended up playing together on the same co-ed team for a long time.
So you're playing on a co-ed team when you're knocking women over on the soccer field.
Well,
Sometimes
some
of them happen to be women.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah.
To win.
The object is to score the goal.
That's
so
right.
if you're in my
Win at
way,
all costs. Okay.
you might fall down.
I didn't know there was like co-ed soccer teams. There's no co-ed football teams, are there?
Yeah, they're all over rec leagues are all over the city. So we'd play. Yeah, it's flags, not tackle.
Do you remember the Blaze? Anybody? The New Orleans full contact female football team.
Yes, I do remember.
I do remember.
I went to a couple games. It was the most entertaining thing because there's all these kids in the bleachers. They're like, "Go, mom!" and you're eating hot dogs and stuff in your face, and you're like, "Oh my god!" And these women are just fucking. Killing each other.
What happened to that whole thing?
It didn't. Well, when I was there, I was one of maybe 33 audience members
So
or
there's more
fans.
people on the-
audience. I think
there's
they
more
don't
people
call
on
them
the field
audience
than-
members at a football
The
match.
crowd, the spectators.
The crowd.
So there's
Got
more
it.
people on the field than there were watching.
Yeah, probably.
I wonder
But
why it didn't catch on. You think chicks beating each
it was
other up would be pretty
super entertaining.
You know, like
yeah,
roller
but they
derby.
but they were not like playing up the like. These were not
Oh,
women that were interested
it
in
wasn't like
putting
mud
on
wrestling.
makeup before
Right,
going to play
right.
football.
They weren't wearing,
These
like,
are women
Hooters
that are
outfits.
interested in playing football, and like it just wasn't as attractive to the masses in U.S.
Yeah.
culture. I mean, if you want to get into it, you know.
I wonder why that is. Because you think if you like football, do you care who's behind the helmet? I mean, if it's a man or a woman, does it really matter to you as a football fan?
Well, I think it does.
I don't.
It's about
Do when you
the
use-
performance. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, does it matter whether that's a man or a woman?
Well,
if they're a good football player?
I think it matters how they perform.
Right.
But
So there's got to be some good women.
But you've got, and I think it's alluded to, you got some cultural barriers to get over. That's absolutely true. But yeah, I think
It's a
at its
mental
core,
game too. I mean,
yeah.
right? You can't separate your mind from your body. Like, if somebody, pisses you off for whatever reason, and you're playing against them, you're going to feel differently about it than if, I don't know. Just
I'm not a football player, but you played football, Dylan.
I know what I'm talking about, too.
What is the mental
Play
attitude when you
football.
go on the field there? Do you hate everybody on the other team, for real?
Well, the thing I would tell folks is teenage boys are terrifying because you can convince a teenage boy to do just about anything. And so I always think back to playing high school football and some of the things that were said by our coaches that today would absolutely not be tolerated. But I'm also thinking that it's probably still said today. And
These are
like
things that
us
are
don't
before the
report.
game or during the game, not in the locker room.
This is during the
afterwards.
game,
It's not in the shower.
This is by
This is sports.
by the coaches. Yeah, I remember our
Like
star
what?
player.
Yeah.
Our star player came off the field one time. This is
What school are we at here?
I grew up in Southern California.
Okay.
And I grew up in the era where concussions weren't that big a deal.
Right.
And so there are a few moments on the field where I just lost, like there's time lost, right? But I remember our star player comes out and he's got two fingers pointing the absolute wrong way. And the coach just grabs the fingers, straightens them out, tapes them up, and he gets back in the game. Like that's the era of football.
Wow.
Just like
That's
cello
real
playing.
football, yeah. Cello, very similar situation,
all
right?
those cello teachers
Just gotta suck it up.
No pain, no gain.
Yeah.
Well, it might be lower scale, but some of those folks are pretty intense with their instruments. You hear lots of stories of guitarists whose fingernails just fly off their hands as they're playing in a concert, and they just keep playing.
I'm not recording this, but you did say you hear lots of stories. about guitar? Do you?
Well, I've heard.
What are you reading?
I've
you subscribe to
listened
Guitar Player Accidents or something?
No, it's been like interviews with who was the guitarist Harrison.
George Harrison.
Harris. Was it Harris or Harrison?
Well, George Harrison was
from
in the
the
Beatles.
Beatles?
That
From
much.
the Beatles.
Yeah,
That's
George
it.
Harrison,
That's it.
yeah.
And
You actually don't know the names of the Beatles. Is that what you're saying?
oh my God, I'm not that old. But I do
You
know.
really don't know the names of the Beatles.
I do know the names of the Beatles.
Okay.
It's Harrison, McCartney, Starr. I'm missing one. Or
Rhymes
two.
with lemon.
That guy that was assassinated.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy that was
guy.
assassinated. Okay.
Lennon. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Okay.
But yeah, it was
was
an
good
interview
acting,
with
by the
him
way.
where
Are
he
you a-
talked about his fingernails and how
George
difficult it
Harrison's
gets.
fingernails?
Oh, his hands. Period.
Well, that's so weird because I just watched a whole 3-hour documentary about George Harrison called Living in the Material World. Have you seen this video about this documentary
No.
on Netflix? It's fucking awesome,
Nice.
actually. Didn't mention his fingernails one time.
Oh wow, I'm sure he doesn't care about his fingernails. It was.
Well,
with,
how would you hear about it?
It was with an interviewer. I forget who he was interviewing with.
Yeah,
and they
it's
were
meant to
talking
be a
about,
manicurist.
and he gave the story, and apparently it was a live performance, and his fingers are bleeding, and he's playing.
I guess if you're in
How many dollars do you think his fingernails
I've got
worth?
blisters on my fingers.
Whoever found
that's a
it.
song, Thomas?
That's at the end of Helter Skelter, for those of you who
Ah.
are Beatles knowledge. Of course, that's Ringo who says that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
drummers. I'm a drummer in a punk band, which means I'm an awful drummer. And
You're currently a drummer in
yeah,
a punk band.
and I
Okay.
played last spring. I played a show, and my hands were bleeding, and there was blood all over the
Wow.
snare drum. And then these we have 4 fans, and 2 of them really wanted to catch the drumsticks, so I actually threw my bloody drumsticks out into the audience.
Wow.
It was my first experience
that's a real-
with that, and they were really excited to get that. So it's a little weird.
How did you get the job as a drummer in a punk band? Did you have to
it's
audition
actually my
for it?
second time being a drummer in a punk band. I was a drummer in a punk band before. I
When you
almost
were
said
in-
pumpkin.
When you were
Before
in
I
college?
moved here.
Was that in college or
Yeah.
something?
Oh, after college.
The
yeah, that's right.
Coochies or something?
Oh my God!
Remember that?
Every time.
We're
Every
back.
time you bust me for that name, that awful name. But yes,
That
yes,
was that band.
was the band.
You
yeah,
were a
yeah,
drummer
yeah.
in the
Mhm.
Coochies.
Yes, that's right. I am the drummer of the Coochies.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I think we've looked for that on YouTube
Yep,
before.
Yep. Yeah, you
Have
find other
did you find
things.
anything? Oh.
Yeah,
not,
you
not
don't
the
find
right
you don't
thing.
find the Helen Gillette, the drummer in the band. You find
We had
all
some
sorts
good
of
songs.
things.
So
on
many
Coochies.
other
We had some
Yeah.
good songs.
Yeah, it's not something I can search at work. I don't think.
Not suitable for work.
Our firewall might have problems with me searching coochie.
Coochie. The Coochies. That's a great title, a great name for a band.
Oh,
though.
thank you so much.
So that was
we
your drum.
researched it
That
for
was
a
how
long
you
time.
started out as a drummer. That was in college, though, right?
Yeah.
Was it
Well,
in
my brother
Boston?
was a drummer. My
Okay.
brother's a drummer, so he's
Oh,
still
he's a real drummer
he's
still
He's
today.
a geologist now, computer programmer who also plays drums. So
Wow.
but he grew up. I played the cello from age 9. Put a lot of blood and sweat into practicing, lots and lots of hours.
And you
he
discovered
also,
you could just pound the drum.
And then you're like, oh, why practice
Yeah.
when you could just be a punk drummer? Just kidding. I also didn't know that the cello could be a punk instrument until later.
You turned it into a punk instrument, actually.
Well, yeah, I mean.
I don't think that was anyone else's idea. No one else has done that.
Oh
have
no,
they,
no,
Steve?
People
there
still
there
don't know
has.
that.
There's okay, yeah, wait, that's why I'm here, right? I should talk
Okay.
about that.
Let the people
Yeah.
know.
Tom
Then we'll make
Cora,
you do a demonstration. In a
I'm
minute.
kind of like, duh, of course it is. But you're right. I'm just so far into my own weird narcissistic life that I didn't realize that I should explain that there are punk drummers out there and
punk cellists.
punk cellists.
Are there? There's a
Well,
whole
I'm drumming
world
on my cello so
Yeah,
much
right.
now that I decided to take up the drums again because I was afraid I was going to, put a hole in my cello.
Right.
So I was so excited about drumming again. I'm like, well, maybe I should stop beating the crap out of this cello, which is, it's not a cheap
It's an
instrument.
expensive instrument, and actually buy a drum kit, which is a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and I did, and now
pound
I'm
the
back.
hell out
Now
of
I'm
it.
back into it. I'm in a band with Aurora Nealand, but we're both named
Are you?
Jessica. Yeah,
In the band,
Mm-hmm.
you both. What's your Jessica? Who are you?
I'm Jessica. I'm just Jessica.
Oh, you're both
and
just
she's
Jessica.
also just Jessica.
Oh, you don't have another
That way,
name,
when
you're not-
when people yell out in the crowd like
Jessica.
that we're not competing.
That's
it's
nice.
like it evens out the platform. The egos are both
It's a very
satisfied.
good idea.
Yeah. I think.
So it would be like all the Beatles being called John.
Yeah.
So it's a punk duo.
Yeah, but then sometimes we have honorary bass players who are also named Jessica.
Also got Jessica.
Yeah.
And what are their real names, these people? There's Aurora, Neeland, and you, which is hilarious to start with.
But then the other member was actually called Jessica Lurie.
That's a real
name, yeah. Which is why she made it in. 'Cause we had a lot of guys that were like, we want to just put on a wig and be part of your band.
Jessica, yeah.
I'm like, no.
So what's the name of the band? Jessica?
It's called Lyrical Cock.
Lyrical Cock. I don't think also you'll be able to search for that one. Isn't that interesting? You went from the Coochies to Lyrical Cock. I guess that's full circle. Pretty much.
6 times 9 is...
Don't worry about that. Stay away from all that. Leave that to the judge. Okay, Lyrical Cock. So we
have a show coming up.
Yes, that was my
January
next question.
24th at the Hi-Ho Lounge, which is on St. Claude Avenue. We'll be playing there. And so, yeah, if you guys want to come and hear Lyrical
So if you're
Cock.
listening to this before January 24th,
Yeah, come on down.
2018...
Yeah, we have a couple fans.
So at the Hi-Ho Lounge.
You could be
This is
part
great.
of our small fan base.
This sounds good. And how often do you have to rehearse for this?
We don't
It's a
really
punk, so you
rehearse.
don't have
we
to worry
don't
about that.
rehearse very much at all. So
Okay, this would be
we're
interesting.
terrible actually, but we have a really good time. Actually, Jessica is terrible. I'm Helen Gillet. I'm just speaking on behalf of her, and now I'm starting to really get into the whole thing. And
Right. Are you Jessica right now, or are you Helen?
I'm right in between the two. It's
very hard.
confusing.
I know. I can't tell what's going on now. So, Jessica, are you looking forward to the next gig? Or is it?
I really
is
am.
it terrifying to get up there?
No, I love it. In fact, as Jessica, I think I'm going to order a Moscow Mule now.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Let's get someone to go get that for you. We'll see who we
Jessica
can get.
loves to drink,
Hey,
and
Alex.
she doesn't like to rehearse.
Could Alex hook us up with a Moscow Mule?
Probably so.
Alex, could you hook us up? Can you get a drink for Jessica?
What am I getting?
A Moscow Mule.
Moscow Mule, please.
Thanks. You can put it on our tab. Thanks.
She loves Zabrovka vodka too, Jessica. She's
Zabrovka.
Zabrovka, the bison grass.
Do you know that
Do you know
one?
about that?
I don't know what you're saying.
It's Russian.
Zabrovka. Doesn't that sound? It's a Polish name. I believe it's Polish, maybe Russian.
Oh, Zabrovka. I thought it was
It's
Russian.
bison grass, and they literally have a piece of it. It's
It's got bison grass in it.
in it. Yeah, there's like a piece of it. I don't know what it's
Jeez,
called.
wait a
Bison grass
minute.
because
Like a
bison
bottle
like
of
it.
See, we should have
Yeah, it's
thought
in a
about some of these
bottle of
stupid
vodka.
ideas.
But
Would you like to
serve it chilled.
Jessica, would you like to play something as Helen or as Jessica?
Well,
Or both?
Well, now I'm Helen again, and
Okay,
this is Helen Gillet talking.
Okay,
now.
Helen, welcome back.
Thank you. So
Have you ever been to some therapy or anything?
Oh yeah.
Should we
I've done it
cancel
all my
that
whole
drink
life.
order for Jessica if she's gone?
No.
Or- okay, she'll be back.
We're good friends. We can.
Okay, so
we can
now
drink
you've
together.
got a little box on the table.
I do.
And I'm looking at the back of it. It's called a what?
Look, here's the front.
Okay,
so
ragini.
a ragini. This is an electronic tanpura, not to be confused with tempura
Not
at a
tempura from a
Japanese.
Japanese restaurant, okay.
Tanpura, which is a Hindi word. This is from India, and I actually had the pleasure of going there to visit my first improv teacher just a couple years ago, and I went and picked this one up. It imitates the sound of an Indian instrument called the tampura, which is used to accompany Indian classical music. And my first improvising teacher is a cellist. I am actually a cellist. I spent a lot more time practicing that than the drums. I have a master's degree in cello, and I'm classically trained, but I didn't know how to improvise or use my ears. And I was just in a practice room reading music and playing like Rachmaninoff and Bach and Mozart and Haydn, study. And I met this woman at age 19. I was 19, and she studied Indian classical music on the cello. Her name's Nancy Lesh. Big shout out to her, because she's also a pioneer in taking the cello on an adventure outside of Western classical music. Big influence on me. And she taught me for 2 years. She taught me 2 ragas, which are songs from North India. And one of them is called Bihag, and I'm going to give you a short taste of what that sounds like.
So you're going to play the cello, and you're going to be accompanied by this little sort of cream-colored plastic box.
Yeah, that's
called
right.
a ragini. It says new on it, by the way.
Oh, it does. Great.
Look,
Good.
can you see that word new?
Where is
on
it?
the
Oh, yeah,
front?
new, yes. Mm-hmm.
It's new.
It's new.
Permanently on there.
It's permanently.
Years to come.
Yeah.
It's the new model.
It's the new version.
I went to pick this up in Pune, India, and it was a very interesting shop. The
What was it?
Mahende Brothers, I believe it was called. And they, traveling as a single woman in India is always an adventure, and to go into a music store and express interest in this. And I tried all the different ones out, but this is the newer model.
Okay.
And you can tune it, so here's what it sounds like. And you can change the pitch. So it can go, this is a C, concert C, Western C. You can go up to D, here's D. It goes all the way up. That's high B. Anyway, we're going to bring it back down. C.
Okay. And you're not supposed to play that instrument by using those keys. You just pick a key.
You pick a key, although it does sound pretty cool, doesn't it?
It does sound pretty interesting when you're doing that wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, it sounds like an electric guitar, kind of.
You can put that through some sort of effects pedal and have the whole thing go.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to play by itself while you play the cello.
I have to go
Look
get
at your
my
cool
cello.
jewelry. I just noticed that. I've been staring at you for half an hour here. What is that?
This I got in a market in Belgium. I went there for my birthday. Actually, my boyfriend bought me tickets
The
to
Canadian
Belgium.
boyfriend?
Yeah, for my
Wow.
birthday.
Was he able to get back in the country himself?
He was, yes.
Thank goodness for that. Okay. Well, he's a nice, generous guy.
Yeah.
What a great guy.
He's a pretty good guy.
How long have you been dating?
About 6 months.
Wow,
But we've been
that's-
knowing each other for over 10 years.
And then suddenly something happened and changed it.
We both
Wow.
couldn't really believe it, and we were terrified, like, oh, let's not mess
let's
this
not
up.
ruin it. Yeah. Now
But
what's
then we
happening?
couldn't not do it.
How
It was
exciting.
like 6 weeks of courting and going, I don't know.
And what
this
was the
is-
moment? Were you playing soccer together? And you knocked him over or something?
And we had an Easter date where he picked me up and he was dressed in an Easter outfit. And
Not a bunny, I heard.
nobody was dressed in pink.
Okay.
And I like a man who's dresses in pink.
Okay, that's good
usually.
to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Confident.
That's what did
you
it.
know?
Okay.
Confidence.
So go grab the cello off the table and whoop, and we'll. Okay. So
We're already in
it's
India.
nice, isn't it? Yeah.
Sounds like a sitar. Ravi Shankar.
It sounds like the warming up in the concert for Bangladesh.
Ah.
Talking to George Harrison.
Voilà.
Wow, wait. Wow. Okay, well, you crying, Molly?
So, yeah, everybody knows what I meant about crying.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Glad we're all on the same page
Do
now.
you need some tissues or anything? Wow, Helen, that is gorgeous.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Shout out to Nancy Lesh, who taught me how to do that.
Good old
because
Nancy.
She
Yeah,
really devoted her whole life to that. So
she could teach me how to do that. I would still not be able to do it. I think there's a lot to be said for your own talent that goes into that.
Yeah.
And you hit on something really interesting in that song, because I've wondered about this for years. When you listen to Indian music, it sounds like it's a different scale. It sounds like it's different notes. But is it actually?
Well, I mean, there's the same, notes are just vibrations that bounce off of something and come back into your ears, and it's the same set of that. It's not like, it's not changed physics or anything of the notes, but they do use different scales, and the word is modes, because like a major mode in Western music, the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, or do, a deer, that whole thing.
Right.
That's a major mode. Well, in this one, the syllables, I'm going to change the key because it's easier for me to sing in a different key. But sa, ga, ma, pa, ni, sa, ni, da, pa, ma, pa, ga, ma, ga, re, sa. That's the mode of that song, Bihag.
Would we call that a scale?
Well,
it's not really,
it's
because
really
it's not
called
going up and down.
a rag. Yeah, no, it's a raga, and the mode would be the Western theory word for what that is, and it's basically set. It's a scale, or a scale. You could call it a scale, but it goes up and down. Like on the way up, it skips. It's like a major scale that skips the second and sixth, and then on the way down, it has a sharp 4, and then you have to.
But they're the same notes that you could play on a piano, say.
Yeah. Well, this one technically yes, but the inflections are not. You have to slide into certain notes. You have to, and then in order for that to happen, you have to have all the intervals between a Western half step. So the piano is confined to. They call it a well-tempered clavier. Johann Sebastian Bach talked about that, but the piano was invented in order to make the physical nature of a scale or of the harmonic sequence. If you take a string and cut it in half, and then cut it in quarters, and cut it in thirds, and it's not an even amount. It's kind of like how we have a leap year. The year doesn't. Nothing can figures into an exact mathematical Descartesian way of thinking, but Western European culture has made it fit into the piano. But so the Indian music is more in tune with the natural harmonic sequence, and so you have to sort of bend in and out of different notes, and different notes have their own tendencies. And also that particular scale, Bihag, does have pitches that are more equivalent to the Western scale. There are some modes in Indian music that use quarter tones, and I think that's maybe where you're getting what you're getting.
Well,
at
I was
too.
wondering how you were playing that on the cello. It looked like you were just playing regular notes. Like
you can't play this on a fretted instrument.
You can't play it
or on a piano.
So you are finding.
Yeah, you're finding the notes in
different
between.
notes in between.
Just for the
so
inflection.
So funny that you can understand all this, which is highly mathematical, but you don't know what 3 times 6 is.
I know, it was pretty pathetic.
Isn't that crazy?
I think I've gotten really metaphysical with stuff, so I can't come back. I'm a split personality.
But that is really complicated, isn't it? I mean, that's a really complicated mathematical. You have to understand what's going on with the physics of that to play that. And then you have to be able to play it with emotion as well.
Well, at least if I'm only going to do one thing for my whole life, I'm trying to do it well,
Yeah, but might as well, right? So, you're not going to help anybody. You're not going to defend. You're not going to defend people who are indigent. So who pays you, Derwin, by the way?
Well, that's the
Good
problem.
Question. Right.
We receive funding from a number of sources, but one that we rely on more than I think we should are fines and fees and costs that come that people pay as they come through the courts, and that's the big problem we've been advocating for change about. Is we have in New Orleans and Louisiana a user pay criminal justice system where the system is funded by the people who go through it, and those are usually some of the poorest and most vulnerable in our communities, and so we're almost always under-resourced, always underfunded, and it's been a problem.
You mean fines and fees that are levied by the court system, so traffic fines and so on?
That's right. Because we depend on those so heavily, the highest volume court, the one where the most people go through, is our biggest revenue source. So in New Orleans, that is traffic court.
Right.
And so it's actually not a joke when people say your right to a lawyer really depends on traffic fines and fees in a jurisdiction. That's the way it is in Louisiana.
So you're happy for the red light cameras?
Well, not the red light cameras are different.
Private, right? Those are private.
They're different. I mean, we do get funding through them, but we're the only public defender office in the state that receives any funding through the red light cameras.
Right. Is that cello okay on the floor? That's what's worrying me.
I'm going to move it.
You want to move it? Yeah.
I'll
Put
be
it
right
away
back.
somewhere so nobody kicks it. So
Weren't you guys on This American Life this past year?
We were on This American Life. We were on 60 Minutes in February.
you've got some publicity.
And so, yeah, we've been talking about this.
Who does your
a good
PR
deal.
for you?
A great young woman named Lindsay Hortenstein does our
So you have a
media
public
work.
relations person.
Yes,
Is she in the office full time or is she a contractor?
she is.
So
She's
you have a
full-time.
full-time PR person.
I do.
Wow.
I do.
Is it worth it? I don't want to kick her out of a job, but
It is. Like, it actually is. It's one of those things where it started through a grant, and we were able to really educate community and stakeholders about what's going on in our criminal justice system, and she's been incredibly helpful with that. And all this social media nonsense, I have no idea how to deal with that stuff, and so she handles all that.
We can follow the Orleans Parish Defender's Office. Is that what it's called? OPD.
Yeah, we have a Facebook page. We have a is it Twitter handle? Is that what it is?
I think you could say. So you're on Twitter.
We're on
The
Facebook.
Orleans Public Defender's Office is on Twitter.
Yes. True.
And what are they weighing in on? What's her name, Lindsay?
Lindsay.
What's she weighing in on?
Well, it's usually criminal justice reform, talking about things that are happening in different parts of the country when it comes to public defense, fines and fees, bail, sentencing, you name it. That's usually what we're talking about.
Geez, that sounds pretty exciting. How many people would be following that, do you think?
I think we're near.
C-Rock will tell us in 1 minute.
I think we're near 2,000.
2,000 people are following you on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive. And all they're getting is information about the criminal justice system.
Yeah, changes in the law, reforms that happen here in Louisiana and in other parts of the country, where it's legal to buy marijuana, that sort of stuff. Actually, I don't think we tweet that. I'm kidding. I think about that.
I was going to follow you right now. That was the only thing I was interested in so far.
You're becoming your own PR person.
Yeah. Okay. So the money comes from the criminal justice system to pay the criminal justice system.
Right.
Or the civil justice system, I suppose.
Yeah, it's
provides the money.
And it's problematic. We're the only place in the country that does this. We're the only state that has this as a regime for funding for criminal justice. Yeah.
Well, so how does every other state in the country do it?
Well, you tell them, you project your need, and there's usually an appropriation that's made, either general fund or there's some targeted tax that pays for
every other state.
Justice. Pretty much every other state.
Pretty much every other state.
You'll get some shifts in when you get local, like in a county or a city, but statewide, no other state does it the way we do.
And so what is happening in our state is that our state abdicates all responsibility for the needy in the justice system, is that what you're saying? And relies on fines from the justice system itself to pay for it. Is that...
Well,
have I got that right?
It is. Our state gives short shrift to the Sixth Amendment, and I always joke when I talk to different folks that the Sixth Amendment is like it's not like an afterthought. It's like one of the.
Well, it is an amendment after all.
It's your right to counsel.
Okay.
Your right
what does
to
it
a lawyer.
actually say?
Well, it says that you have a right to counsel. There's other things in it, but you have a right to a lawyer. You have a right to a speedy and public trial.
Right.
And it is one of the original 10 amendments. And my joke when I speak to folks is that our forefathers didn't end slavery, but they gave us all a lawyer. And that's how important it was to them.
Wow.
Were they lawyers, these people who wrote the Constitution?
Well, there were a bunch of rich planters for the most part, but I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of different folks involved in that. But
I haven't got a clue. Did you do any American history as a kid?
It's just
I
because
don't know anything.
For some reason, this Thanksgiving, I was by myself because my Canadian boyfriend doesn't care about Thanksgiving. No, I'm just kidding. He was actually he doesn't really, but he was overseas at work working, and so I was left alone to fend for myself with my family. So I thought I'd immerse myself in documentaries, and I
rather than dealing with your family, is it?
Well, I revisited the Pilgrim, the Plymouth Rock, whole thing, and was it William Bradford, I think was his name, who came over on the Mayflower, and he was really he had lost his whole family by the time he was 11 in England, moved to Holland, then came over on the Mayflower, started Plymouth. He was the only survivor that made it as a governor of that. And he had good relationships with the Native American, well, relatively good relationships with certain Native American people for a while. And he was just full of optimism, and then got completely co-opted into capitalism from Europe, and then that was all went to shit. But it was just interesting I want to read his writings now, because it would be nice to see what his original intent was. It seemed I tend to be I'm like super sarcastic and somewhat dark, but I think have an inherent faith in humanity, and I think, well, there's got to be some good there that came over with him and his idealistic nature, and I'd like to read a little bit more and maybe try to find what at least that was.
I think everybody has that idealistic nature. That's what America was built on.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It's just, anyway. So it's really interesting to think about where law comes from, where the intentions are, and then how to interpret those as we move forward as a capitalist American society, and then our system of law is so unfair and unjust in so many ways because of money
But every other state apparently gives money to people to be defended in the system which is weighted against them, except Louisiana.
Well, other folks do it better than we do. There's troubles everywhere, but there's no one. And you'll see this quite often said. There's no place quite like Louisiana, and so there's no system quite like ours, even with a right that really predates the country. The first sort of pro bono or free representation that was provided was for the soldiers from the Boston Massacre, and it was a riot. We had foreign soldiers placed in our country. They killed a number of civilians, and they couldn't get anyone to take their case. They didn't have very much money. The king sort of abandoned them as they were here, and they convinced a lawyer to take their case. All of them were facing the death penalty. None of them were executed. None of them did any jail time that was of any significance. And that first lawyer, that first public defender, was John Adams, our second president of the United States.
I'm surprised someone hasn't written a musical about that.
I have a lot of followers on Twitter. John
Adams the musical. That could be a little
Twitter
project.
Handle.
Cello's already ready to go.
That could be a little project for you guys to work on together.
Derwin, real quick, what was the second line for Justice?
The second line for Justice was it's an annual event that we run, which is our second line to sort of highlight the need for support of public defense and for criminal justice reform here in New Orleans and Louisiana. And this was our second year this year that we ran it.
All right.
It is a whole lot of fun. We start down at Kermit's Place Mother-in-Law Lounge, and then go down Claiborne, up Orleans, to Broad, to the courthouse. There's a rally at the courthouse, and then we all second line back. It's been incredibly successful over the last couple of years.
And where can we? And we'll put a link to that on our website. It's neworleans.com.
There's a great picture of you on the Orleans Defender Twitter.
What's he got on? C-Rock?
I have no idea.
He's got
on there.
some cargo shorts. He's right under the Claiborne Bridge.
Styling.
Yeah, that's probably right. He's probably right.
All right. And you married the girl that you dated from the soccer game, just to wrap this whole thing up, because we've got to get out of here now.
It is all true, and she actually is a teacher at Samuel J. Green Charter School. Which
right
is
around the corner here. And that's funny because they have a lot of soccer. Oh, here's John Heigl calling me. Shall I take this? This is my crazy... No, I can't. This is my crazy neighbor. The squirrel lady.
Yes, take it.
I'm not taking it. We have to get out of here.
Okay.
She is good, though. You can find videos of John Heigl, the squirrel lady, on Facebook, actually, if you take a look. She's good. Okay, so we're out of here. But first, before we go, we have to say thank you very much to the people who made this show possible. Basics Swim and Gym, where you can get a full range of fashion swimsuits, workout, and yoga clothes with style. They're on Jefferson. No, they're on Magazine Street, right near Jefferson Avenue. Hey, that's a great idea. Thanks to the Hangover Destroyer, the only all-natural product medically proven to prevent a hangover. If you go to the Hangover Destroyer website, it's called hdestroyer.com, and you write happy hour on the coupon code there, you can get 30% off of Hangover Destroyer. And you, too, can seize the dawn. And thanks also to Louisiana Legs, which makes workout and yoga clothes with designs that incorporate photographic art, like Mardi Gras beads, boiled crawfish, wrought iron from France and caves in China. You can find Louisiana Legs on Facebook and Instagram, and you can buy Louisiana Legs on Etsy. And that's about the end of our Ragini happy hour for today with Derwin Bunton. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Helen Gillet on Ragini and cello.
Thank you.
And Molly Richard, the budget bitch.
Thanks for having me.
Also found at Civic Source, which we did not even mention one time.
It's okay.
I guess we'll have to get on to that next time. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. That's been Happy Hour for another day. You can find links to all these folks on our website, itsneworleans.com. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you.
This has been a lot of fun. Our show is produced by Graham DePonte. Our associate producers are Alison Moon and April Stolf. Christian Unruh is our music director, and Jean Valois is our music producer. Thomas Walsh is our technical director, and Asher Griffith is the Facebook Live director who put this whole thing on Facebook Live, which if you haven't seen it on Facebook Live, you can go back to the It's New Orleans Facebook page and watch it if you'd like to see what we look like. Our fact checker and social media connector is the fabulous Andrew C-Rock. C-Rock, our theme music was written by and is currently being played by Mitch Foreman. If you'd like to be on our show and you can sit upright for about 60 minutes while talking and drinking alcohol, drop us a line. Our address is on our website, It's New Orleans, where you can also find out many other happy hours that we've made before this one, as well as some other shows we make here. Out to Lunch with Peter Raschuti, live from Commander's Palace in Louisiana Eats with Poppy Tooker, and you can find other great Louisiana podcasts at itsacadiana.com. And it's BatonRouge.la. You can keep up with us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and a bunch of other time-sucking social media as well. On all of it, we're called It's New Orleans, and you can find photos from this show on itsneworleans.com and on our Facebook page. These photos were taken by Alison Moon. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, thank you for subscribing to us. Take a moment, if you've got one, to rate and review us. That helps other people find us. Our show is recorded live today at Wayfair on Ferret Street in Uptown New Orleans. Happy Hour is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsneworleans.com. On behalf of Andrew Duhon, who will be back here next week, everyone else around the table here at Wayfair and back at our office at INO Broadcasting, thanks for joining us. I'm Grant Morris. I'll see you back here next week for more Happy Hour.
Hi, welcome to this ad for new Subway sliders starting at $1.89 each. How do you want it?
Cheer Squad.
Woo! Go Subway sliders starting at $1.89 each.
Give me a $1.89 ham and jack slider.
$1.89 ham and jack slider.
Give me a $1.89 Italian spice slider.
$1.89 Italian spice slider.
What's that spell?
Doesn't really spell anything.
New Subway sliders starting at $1.89 each. Go Sliders!
Customization for flavored cheese and sauce at participating shops plus tax. Price higher on delivery. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii.